Is it time to quit Pinterest? But today is part 4 of my 5-part video series. And today I'm going to be talking about why today is the best time to use Pinterest for business, especially if you've been thinking like, well, the Pinterest boat has already sailed. So I'm going to tell you all about why it's the best time and what you can be doing right now to take advantage of what's happening on Pinterest. I see Joey's here on Instagram. Good to see you here. I'm going to pull up my Facebook. I'm streaming this on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube all at the same time, which is super duper fun. I just finished wrapping up slides for a new training that we're doing inside of our membership, all about fresh pins, how to do fresh pins right now, which if you are struggling on Pinterest, you're probably going like, fresh pins don't work. Well, that is something that a lot of us have thought because we're kind of doing it wrong. And so we're going to be dealing with that inside of our membership today. But what I want to share with you right now on this video is why today is the best time to be using Pinterest for business. So I've got a little bit of a gardener analogy here. So if any of you guys are gardeners, you might have heard this before. If you ask a gardener, when was the best time to plant a tree? They're going to say like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, right? Because if you had planted it back then, it would have grown and been fully mature by now. And so then if you ask them, okay, well, you can't go back in time, right? You can't change it. So if you ask them, well, what's the next best time to plant a tree? They would say today, right now. And the same is true with Pinterest, right? Yeah, probably the best time to have gotten on Pinterest or insert any platform, right? Facebook, YouTube, Clubhouse, whatever. The best time to get on that platform would have been years ago in the beginning, right? Because it's a lot simpler. There's a lot less competition, right? There's all those reasons for why yesterday was the best day. But just like with planting a tree, we can't go back in time, right? We can't go back in time and be like, well, I shoulda. And so that ship has sailed. But what we can do is do something different today, right? So here's what we know about Pinterest right now. And post-pandemic, there's something really interesting happening on Pinterest. More people are on Pinterest than ever in history, and it's only growing. Pinterest has doubled, the user base on Pinterest has doubled in size since 2 years ago, right? What other platform can say they've doubled in size? I mean, other than like new ones, right? Pinterest has been around for a long time, and they've doubled in size just recently. So there's more people on Pinterest than ever in history, and it's only growing from here. Pinterest is seeing more growth in demographics like men, Gen Z, and in multiple other countries. So if you want to take your business like super international, Pinterest is a totally great place to get found. The other thing to think about is that future generations are now coming online. Like I look at my son, he's 14. He uses the internet in totally different ways than he did a few years ago. Some kids don't even have phones, right? Like my youngest nephew is, I want to say he's 10. He just got a phone, right? So it's like, there's new people coming online that weren't here back when Pinterest started, right? So if you're like, well, I started my Pinterest 5 years ago, there's totally new people coming on that are looking for stuff, right? And Pinterest is really trying hard to capture the attention of Gen Z, et cetera. And I was looking at my Pinterest analytics, and the top demographic that's active right now is the 25 to 34-year-olds on my account. And I was like, what? I'm like in the 40s. Like my target demo is typically like in their 50s as far as like the history of what I've attracted, because they did a lot of crafting. But younger people are wanting to make things, right? So what's really great about Pinterest right now is that they have a lot of Gen Z people who are coming on and using it, but they also have that existing baby boomer and Gen X audience that's on Pinterest that has money, that's spending money on things. So there's so much room for growth as we see this younger generation maturing and starting to use the Pinterest platform. It's like, that's a whole new audience of people that we can be reaching. The other thing that happens with these platforms and why today is a good day to be on Pinterest is if you've been on Pinterest and you're getting frustrated by, okay, Pinterest isn't growing, so now you're watching this because you're thinking about quitting Pinterest, know that it only gets more complicated as time goes on. And there's an analogy that I can give for this, a real life story for myself. I used to do Facebook ads. I knew how to do Facebook ads. I'd done some of them with some brands. And I'd use Facebook ads for my own business, right? For my DIY blog, for clients when I was doing social media management. I wasn't like super duper hardcore into Facebook ads, but I could do them. I could navigate it. I could figure it out. I have been dragging my feet on getting back into doing Facebook ads because I was doing them way back in the beginning. Because in my mind, I built it up to be really complicated. So I bought programs and I hired coaches. I hired someone to run my ads last year, and then I ended up letting them go. Spent all this money on this because it was so complicated, right? Now that I took all this time off, I took about 6 years off from doing Facebook ads. I went back into it and I was like, oh, I don't know how to do it. Oh, the bar is raised. Oh, it's so difficult. If only I had kind of kept even just like my pinky finger involved in Facebook ads, it wouldn't have been so intimidating, right? Because it is only going to get more complicated over time because it gets more sophisticated. What we have to do to get the attention of people gets a little more sophisticated. The competition gets increased. So you could either say, I'm going to check out, right? Like I did with Facebook ads, and then I'll come back in later and know that you've got to learn all this stuff. Or you can keep, like, you don't have to be like, I'm going to have both my hands in Pinterest all the time, but you could keep a little bit active. And then those complications, those changes don't seem as insurmountable over time because you're kind of rolling with them. You're like, oh, they're rolling out story pins. Now they're idea pins. All right, I'm going to try those. I'm going to do a little this, do a little that. You don't have to do it crazy whole hog, right? Like I didn't have to become a Facebook ads manager to stay up to date on Facebook ads. I just needed to keep doing ads, right? Same thing with Pinterest. It's going to get more complicated as time goes on. We know that this is going to happen. So stay active on it so that you're not going to go get blindsided, because especially if you're like, I'm going to take a break from Pinterest and you're going to keep doing the business that you have now, the business that already got traffic from Pinterest in the past. If that's your plan, and you check out of Pinterest, you're going to have a lot to learn to come back in, right? Unless your goal is like, I'm going to close this business in the next couple of years. Okay, fine. Check out on Pinterest. But if you want to sell this business, or if you want to just take a break from Pinterest and come back to that part of it in your business, it is wise to keep a finger on the pulse of what's happening on Pinterest and to still stay engaged and still active, because otherwise you're going to miss out on a lot of things, right? When I went back into the Facebook Ads Manager to start doing stuff, one, I couldn't find where anything was. There's like 84 pages of Business Manager now. And I was like, I don't know where I'm at in here. I got lost. And then there were all these things I had to do. I can't just go in and turn on ads again. I have to like verify my site and do this and do that and do these steps and blah, blah, blah. I had to email my web designer. I had to message my host. I was like, well, I can't get access to this. I have Kajabi. I was like, oh, if I'm going to run ads to Kajabi, now I got to verify that. It was all these other things before I could even press go. And you're going to be in that same place. If you're like, well, I'm just going to go back to pinning again. They're going to move stuff. It's going to look different. Buttons are going to be in different places. So like save yourself some of that heartache and just keep you don't have to have your whole hand in there, but keep a pinky finger involved. Okay. And I'm just saying that because like I am experiencing this myself. It's very painful to try to go back in. The same with YouTube. I took a little break from YouTube and I went back into the back end and I was like, where's all the things? I don't know where my stuff is. Right. So, we could minimize that by staying a little bit involved. You don't have to be all in, but stay a little bit involved. And that's why today is a good time to use Pinterest as a business, because it's just going to get more complicated. So get in there and learn it. And you don't have to be the master at it, but just be familiar. The other thing that's happening is that there are people quitting. That's why I'm creating this series, right? Because people are asking, is it time to quit Pinterest? And as they remove themselves from the flow, I went over this yesterday in my video all about what happens if you quit Pinterest. There is going to be less competition, right? Those people leave and it's kind of goes down. I'm looking at, as you know, a little unfortunate as businesses have closed because of COVID. In fact, there's I'm watching this. There's a little area here called the Village here in Redondo Beach where I live. And it's a cute little area with shops and boutiques and little restaurants. And it's right by the beach. You can walk to the beach from there. And it's a cute little place, right? There's a farmer's market. One of the things that's happened is that businesses have closed. Some were new businesses that closed. And one of the ones that I'm really thinking about is one that was there for 20 years and they closed and the building was bright pink. And I was walking by the other day and the owner or somebody painted it light gray. And I was like, whoa, this whole block looks different because they painted the building a different color than I had known it to always be. I haven't lived here very long, but my experience was that building was always hot pink. And so I come around the corner and I was a little disoriented that I was like, oh, they changed it. But here's the thing. As right next to that building, right next to that shop was another shop it was like an insurance agency or something before. And during COVID, that closed and this new business came in that sells like crystals and sage and all these other things. And so as the other people are leaving, it's creating room for new things to come in, right? So as people are quitting, that makes more room for you. And it might seem sad, like, oh man, another business is quitting Pinterest, but it's just the reality of how it is, right? So if businesses are going to leave Pinterest, eventually their content's going to be taken out of rotation, and that's going to leave space for you. Okay, to reach those audiences. So if you're like, oh, I'm new, or oh, someone else dominates this area, there's always an opportunity for new to come in, right? It's not whoever was on Google back in 1995 or whatever and got number one on Google. They are not number one anymore, right? Because they've stopped and the bar is raised as well. So that's the thing. People are quitting. That makes more room for you. They're not going to be updating their content. So you can overtake search in those new places that you weren't excelling before. But also the competition is going to grow. So as you are continuing to improve your content, continuing to put it out there on Pinterest, you are going to be raising the bar on yourself. And as you're going to be part of the bar being raised for everyone else and creating that better and better user experience. If you remove yourself from that, you are not part of that evolution, right? So then you're not only going to have to catch up with like, where'd they move the buttons, right? Again, this is very much my Facebook ads experience right now. You don't have to just catch up where they move the buttons and the links and all of that. You're going to have to catch up on like, wait, the thing I could put as this is what I'm experiencing with Facebook. The thing I could have put as an ad before that performed, I got to do way better than that now. And I'm not skilled in that. My muscles are atrophied in that. So now I have to really work hard to figure out like, what does my image and my copy and everything have to look like? The same on Pinterest. If you remove yourself, the competition is always growing. They're always getting better. It's always evolving. You stop working out those muscles. You're going to have to, when you come back in, you're going to be like, what do I have to do to make my pins perform? You'll have no idea because you let those muscles atrophy. So we don't want to be doing that. Now, the nice thing is your pins do live on evergreen in Pinterest. They are there forever. So like put something on Facebook, put something on Instagram, in 24 hours, it's like, it's gone. Okay. Like it just doesn't really do much after that unless you had like a crazy viral or you're like putting some money behind it. But organically, it just doesn't really do that. So the thing that's beautiful about Pinterest with evergreen content is you can't go wrong except for missed optimization or not being on at all. So if we kind of go back to the garden analogy, imagine if you just like didn't fertilize or water the plants, you just threw some seeds wherever, some would sprout and survive, right? Like, I don't know if you've ever been driving through the mountains or even like on the freeway, right? You're driving through some concrete wasteland, right? On the freeway, everything's paved over, but there's a little flower growing in a crack. Right? Some seeds, if you throw them out, will grow, but you have so much of a better opportunity if you do some optimization, right? So like if I was planting seeds, if I put it in dirt instead of concrete, it probably will have more of a chance to grow. If I put fertilizer on it, some water, put it in a place where there's some sun, has more of an opportunity to grow than if I just threw seeds out randomly. Some will grow, more will grow if I optimize, right? The same with Pinterest. If you put just some pins out there and they're terrible, some will take off, right? You have an opportunity. Some could take off at some point in time. But it's better if you optimize. Now, if you didn't plant any seeds at all, nothing is going to grow. The same with Pinterest, right? 100% guarantee that nothing is going to happen if you don't put anything on, if you don't plant any seeds on Pinterest. It's not 100% guarantee that nothing's going to happen, because you could have zero activity on Pinterest, do nothing on Pinterest. But if other people can come to your site and you allow them to pin your images, they can plant seeds, right? They can pin from your site and potentially send you traffic. The thing is, you don't have control over what they post. You don't have control over what it looks like, right? Unless you're doing that work on your site, which I would then consider you being on Pinterest, right? If you're going to go on your site and you're going to make long pin images and you're going to make keyword optimized descriptions, and you're going to put the code in there or use a plugin to make sure that when someone pins from your site, it's pinning a nice image and it's got all the text and everything that it's supposed to have, then you're working on Pinterest, right? If you're not doing that and people can just come to your site and pin any image and then the description is image 956 or whatever, that's not necessarily going to help you. So it would be tantamount to you having a garden, but it's a garden of weeds, right? Like there might be something in there you can eat or a nice flower, but it's probably going to be weeds. So you got a couple options on Pinterest, right? The pins live on evergreen. You can stop and do nothing and let them keep going. Or if you do just a little bit of optimization, it would be like fertilizing some seeds, right? You can have some success. The thing that's great about Pinterest is the pins live on forever. So Pinterest can be can be scraping content, gathering data, showing your pins to different people. And over time, it has more and more data about who to show the pin to so that it will get results, whether you did a good job of optimizing it or not. So if you optimized it, then it's probably going to have more accurate labels. It's probably going to be more accurate with showing it to the people that are most interested in that content. If you didn't do optimization, it might show it to some people and maybe you just kind of nailed it because you were like, just using common sense going, well, if my pin is about a linen dress and I use the words linen dress on it and it's a picture of a linen dress and my title's linen dress and I pinned it to a board called linen dress, like just you happen to do all that and it's really clear to Pinterest this is about a linen dress. It's going to show it to those people who are interested in that. So Pinterest will be gathering data about your pin over time, and maybe it's like not the greatest, most awesomest pin. It's kind of down at the bottom of the stack. As Pinterest is taking those pins and showing them to people that are interested in them, it's almost like it's getting down to the bottom of the deck. Okay. And maybe your pin is at the bottom of the deck when Pinterest has a deficit of content, which happens when people aren't putting good new stuff out there, when people are leaving the platform, when there's a huge demand for ideas in a certain area and there's not enough content, they experience a deficit of content. What happens? They go to the bottom of the deck and they pull your pin that is not that great, but that's what they have and they show it to people. And I will tell you, I have had this happen over and over again. This Easter, there was a deficit in good Easter ideas. And Pinterest pulled one of my pins. It was really old. It wasn't even that amazing, but it's like they pull it from the bottom of the deck and they serve it up. And guess what? I got a huge influx of traffic. Would it have been better if I had that pin optimized? Would it have been better if I'd made some fresh pins and put those out there? Would it have been better if I had updated that blog post? Yeah. So whatever I could do, I did. I went and I updated the blog post. I went and I made some fresh pins for it. But that can happen. Okay. Even if you're not on there. And that's why I'm saying, like, you can't get it wrong. Like, you can do a poor job of it, but Pinterest still may pull your pin up, even if it's like not that great. Okay. So it's better if you optimize it, but if you're like, well, I don't feel like I can optimize, I don't have the time, I don't have the bandwidth for that, then it's better for you to be on there than not at all. Okay. It's better to be on there than not at all, because like today is better than, tomorrow, right? 5 years ago was better. Can't do that. Today is better than tomorrow, because tomorrow more things are going to change. More competition is going to be happening, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what should you be doing now, right? If you're like, okay, I'm ready to take action on Pinterest, or I'm not going to throw the towel in, I'm ready to go. Like, come on, lady, my numbers are bad. I don't know what to do. Here's what you're going to do. Number one, it's very simple. Put the pins on. Put pins on Pinterest, okay? Now, there's a lot of where you kind of start to do that and you get in the minutia and you're like, I don't know what pins to put on. I don't know how many pins to put on. I don't know how many pins between pins to put on. I don't know how many boards. Like, just get that out of your head. Put pins on. It might be that you put one pin on this week and one pin on next week. And I'm not telling you, like, if you're taking notes, I don't want you to write a sticky note and be like, Jennifer said, one pin a week. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is just get on there. Just put some pins on there. Even if it's once a month, put it on your calendar to put pins on Pinterest. That's it. Second, optimize them for the best performance you can now with the knowledge you have now. Now, if you're in a program like my program, Smart Pin Pro, you got a lot of knowledge, right? And you got a lot of resources. We can help you really optimize those pins. We can take it like to level 84, right? It's like you're in the Olympics. I probably shouldn't have said that word because I might get in trouble. But it's like you're a professional, okay? But if you don't have that yet, then go with what you have. And the one thing that we all do have is common sense, right? If my post is about, like, I don't know, this is my cup of coffee. If my post or my product or whatever it is I'm trying to send people to from Pinterest is about coffee, then I probably am going to use the words coffee to describe it. I'm probably going to show a picture of coffee in my graphic, right? Use what you have to optimize for the best performance now. Now, what's the opposite of that? The opposite of that is, like, if I took a picture of my coffee and I uploaded it to my website and it just said image 956, I didn't do anything to it. I didn't change the name. I didn't change the image. The image is, like, not the right shape for Pinterest, right? 80% of people on Pinterest are on mobile phones. If my image is, like, short and squat, it's going to be hard for people to see on Pinterest. Be really small. If I don't do any of that stuff, right, that's not optimizing. But you can use some common sense that all of us have to be like, well, if someone was looking for coffee, they probably would type the word coffee in Pinterest. So I probably should put that somewhere on my pin, right? If people are looking at it on a phone, right? I use Pinterest on my phone. So what would the image look like there? Oh, if I had it longer, that's going to take more of the screen. I can show more stuff. So maybe I should put my image. So if I cropped it, it would be recognizable on this mobile device, right? Because that's smaller, right? For those of you watching on YouTube and Facebook, I'm on my phone. On Instagram, so I'm pointing to my phone. But yeah, so number one, put the pins on. Number two, optimize them for the best performance you can now with the knowledge you have now. Okay. There's always going to be more to learn. There's always going to be more to improve. There is no perfection that can be achieved. You can take it next level, next level, next level, next level, but there's no perfection. So it's the same thing with running the mile, right? There were people who said you couldn't run, I should look this up to get the actual stats, but you can't run a 4-minute mile till someone did. And then right after somebody broke the record for a 4-minute mile, like I think 36 other people did it within, a certain amount of time. And then they push faster and push faster and push faster. The same thing with Pinterest. There is never a perfection. There's always optimizing better, 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 but you have to start where you are. Right? You can't start where a pro is if you're new to Pinterest. You can't start at the level of someone that gets 100,000 page views a month from Pinterest if you're only getting 10,000. You start with what you know. Then you learn how to better optimize them going forward, right? So that's all you got to do. 3 things. Pin things, optimize them to the best of your ability now, and then learn and improve how to get better as you go forward. The next one's going to be better than the next one, than the previous one. And then the next one after that will be better than that previous one. And you'll keep improving. It's really that simple. I think we make it really complicated, but it really is that simple. So if today is the best time to be on Pinterest because you can't go back in time and get on back when it was, and tomorrow it's going to be more complicated, and in a couple of years, oh my gosh, it's going to be probably totally different. Then get on now, put pins on, optimize to the best of your ability, and learn. That's it. It's really that simple. So I'd love to know what you guys think about this. If you are stuck on Pinterest, if you are like, oh, I still think I should quit, or I'm still confused, right? Let's work through that. Leave me a comment and let's work through that. And we can talk about it in the comments here on Instagram, on Facebook, and YouTube. I'm always checking my notifications for those things. So even if you're watching this on the replay in a year, we can still talk about it. All right. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you being here. Tomorrow, I am going to be going through part 5 of this series. Is it time to quit Pinterest? And we're going to be talking about the next steps to take if you decide to stay or if you decide to quit. Okay. So I did just tell you, hey, put some pins on, optimize, blah, blah, blah. But there are some specific steps that you should take if you're like, okay, I'm all in, I'm going to stay on Pinterest. What do I need to do that I didn't cover today? Or I'm all in, I'm going to quit. Or actually, that would be like, I'm all out. I'm all out. I'm going to quit Pinterest. What do I need to do? So I'm going to give you those steps because you're probably going to be a little surprised. They're going to be pretty similar. They're going to be pretty similar. This is if you want to get the max benefit, right? I don't want you to be leaving Pinterest and deleting your account and just kind of throwing everything away. That would be tantamount to like you're deciding to move to another city and instead of selling your house, you're going to burn it down to the ground, right? Not necessary to do that. So there's some things you can do to set yourself up for success, even if you decide to exit Pinterest. And if you do, I want you to do that in the most beneficial way to you possible, right? Because like I said, different from all the other platforms with Pinterest, your content still lives on. So there's always a possibility that one of those seeds can sprout. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I will see you here again